The moment I produced the appointment memo, the room fell silent. My team members, after a brief pause, started clapping loudly, trying to smooth things over for me. See? Looks like our team lead really understands he was in the wrong. Why don't you forgive him, Ms. Morgan? Yeah. I mean, for Ethan to be this gracious, there must have been a misunderstanding. He's genuinely happy for you and Mr. Vance. They were working hard to diffuse the tension, but Leo Vance, the junior assistant, clutched the memo in his hand, his eyes darting to my custom-tailored suit. His voice was laced with a practiced vulnerability. But Ethan dressed up like this. Wasn't he just trying to steal the spotlight? The room went quiet again. No one expected Leo to keep pushing. All eyes turned to me. My wife, Claire Morgan, offered no defense. Her expression was a mask of ambiguity. I couldn't help but laugh, a bitter, hollow sound. 10 years ago, I had an offer from Google on the table. A 7-figure salary would have been a given, but I turned it all down for Claire. She'd begged me to stay, and so I did, choosing to bootstrap a startup with her, living on ramen and sheer will. She had cried, promising she'd never forget my sacrifice. The second the company went public, she said we would announce our marriage, and she would make me a VP and give me a significant equity stake. Now, on the verge of our IPO, all her favor was being showered on a rookie who'd been with us for 6 months. I took a deep breath and began unbuttoning my suit jacket. My apologies, I said, my voice steady. It won't happen again. I will never again have any expectations for you, Claire. I walked out of the conference room in just my thin dress shirt. Outside, the cold Bay Area wind whipped against my skin, making it sting. A low cough escaped my lips. My doctor had told me the chemical exposure from the lab had damaged my lungs. The late nights and high-stress work had to stop. Claire had no idea that I was the one who had finally cracked the key formula for our current project after countless sleepless nights. We had 3 days until the deadline. Without a viable product, she would be facing a $1 million penalty. Maybe it was time to start living a life that was actually my own instead of bleeding myself dry for someone who didn't love me. Thwack! Something hard at the back of my head. I spun around to see Leo Vance glaring at me, malice playing on his face. The crumpled project lead memo lay on the pavement between us. Ethan, you are so stupid, he sneered. I hinted that Claire was going to go public about your relationship, and you actually believed it. A cold shock went through me. Of course I believed it. It was the one thing I'd been dreaming of for a decade. The hope was too intoxicating to question. I said nothing, which only emboldened him. Too bad for you. Claire seems to like me more. Forget being a project lead. If I cried a little, I could probably get you fired altogether. Leo had always been two-faced. I had been against hiring him during his interview, but Claire had overruled me and brought him on anyway. Since then, he made it his mission to make my life difficult, constantly provoking me and then playing the victim in front of everyone else. It led to endless fights between me and Claire, with her accusing me of being petty and jealous. Looking back, I felt like a fool for ever competing with this child for Claire's affection. I turned to walk away, but Leo's eyes glinted. In a shocking move, he slapped himself hard across the face. A red welt instantly appeared on his pale cheek. Before I could process what had happened, his eyes filled with tears. He bent down, humbly picking up the memo from the ground, and held it out to me with a trembling hand. Ethan, I know you don't like me. You can hit me, you can yell at me, I don't care. Just take this back. Please stay with the company. I'll tell Claire I'm resigning. In the next second, I heard Claire's furious voice from behind me. Ethan, have you lost your mind? She threw the coat she was carrying onto the ground and slapped me across the face. Leo was just a kid, making a joke. First you walk out, and now you're hitting him just to get your position back? When did you become so violent? She looked like a lioness protecting her cub. I tasted blood in my mouth and fought back a cold, cynical laugh. Whenever Leo and I had a conflict, Claire never bothered to ask what happened. She just assumed I was the bully. I used to argue until I was hoarse, my heart filled with indignation. Now I was just tired. I managed a weak, bleak smile. Thank you. Her rage seemed to deflate, replaced by confusion. Thank me for what? My voice was flat. Thank you for showing me exactly what you think of me, a petty, jealous, manipulative little man. I turned and left. Claire flinched as if struck. She took a step, her hand instinctively reaching out and grabbing my arm. It was ice cold. My nose was already red from the winter chill. Flustered, she picked up her coat from the pavement and shoved it into my hands. Here, it's freezing, put this on. As for the project lead position, I'll reconsider. The moment he heard that, Leo panicked. Claire, he cried out, his voice thick with performative despair. I know Ethan is one of the founders. I can never compare to your years of friendship. Please don't fight because of me. I'll go to HR and resign right now. With that, he ran back toward the building, clutching the memo. As he went up the steps, he staged a clumsy fall, his knee hitting the concrete. He cried out in pain, clutching his leg. Claire's eyes widened. She looked from Leo, whimpering on the steps, to me as I turned to leave. After a moment's hesitation, she said quickly, "Ethan, just go home. I'll call you later." Then, without a backward glance, she rushed to Leo's side. Down on the sidewalk, Claire gently tried to help Leo up, her movements as careful as if she were handling fragile porcelain. Leo, playing the part of the proud, wounded man, pushed her hand away and tried to stand on his own, only to stumble dramatically back into her soft embrace. It was the end of the workday, and the street was busy. Their public drama quickly drew a crowd of onlookers. A sarcastic smile touched my lips. In public, Claire never let me get within 10 feet of her. I was to call her Ms. Morgan, always. Once, after an argument, I tried to make up by taking her hand as we walked. She'd recoiled as if shocked by an electric current and lit into me right there on the street, accusing me of breaking our rule about keeping the marriage a secret. She wasn't a monkey in a zoo. She'd hissed, and she had no interest in public displays of affection. But now, with the entire company shipping them as a couple and strangers gawking at her, she didn't seem to care at all. I swallowed the lump in my throat and hailed an Uber. Back at our apartment, the warmth of the heater made the stinging on my cheek flare up. In the mirror, I saw the angry red welts from her slap, punctuated by a thin scratch, probably from a ring. I looked ridiculous. A clown. My phone, sitting on the bathroom counter, lit up with a new message on LinkedIn. "Ethan, are you sure you won't reconsider our offer? We're a Fortune 500 company, great work-life balance, 4-day work weeks. The possibility of you heading up our entire domestic division isn't out of the question." It was the recruiter from the other company. They'd been persistent. If we didn't have a professional partnership, I would have blocked her months ago. My usual reply was a polite, "Not at the moment." This time I wrote back, "Okay, I'll book a flight for tomorrow." The 3 dots indicating she was typing appeared instantly. "That's fantastic. Ethan, I'm wiring you a $5,000 travel advance right now. We can't wait to see you." A notification from my bank popped up. $5,000. My new balance was a glaring $5,212. I covered my face and laughed out loud. $5,000. Claire paid me a salary of $2,500 a month, terrified that if I had any real money, I'd stop working so hard. I couldn't even earn in a year what I'd just been given for a plane ticket. She always said that even married couples needed to keep their finances separate. She charged me half the rent, and I paid all the utilities. I did all the chores. Once I used a roll of paper towel from her supply, and she Venmo requested me $10 for it. She never, of course, mentioned the money I spent on groceries, cooking every meal, and buying all the household necessities. After all these years, I was basically broke. Composing myself, I walked out of the bathroom and started packing. In the back of a drawer, I found an old digital camera. It was a decade-old model I hadn't used in years. I was surprised it still turned on. I plugged it into my laptop and started scrolling through the photos. Claire had bought it for me when we first started the company. She knew I loved photography and promised to buy me a better one once we went public. In those difficult years, we were both orphans with no family to help us. We only had each other for warmth. The photos showed us sharing a single bowl of instant ramen, napping on each other's shoulders on the bus to save gas money. There was one from Christmas Eve, fireworks exploding outside our tiny apartment window, just after we'd argued over the last slice of ham and dropped it on the floor. She had run into the bathroom and burst into tears. The memories felt like they were from yesterday and from another lifetime. But as the dates on the photos got more recent, there were fewer and fewer of them. The last one was from 6 months ago. Claire, looking sophisticated and powerful in a business suit, was frowning, her hand held up to block the lens. Our project had just achieved a major breakthrough, and she was already planning the IPO. I had pulled out the camera to capture the moment, a habit of ours. Her voice had been dripping with scorn. "No wonder the lab work has been so slow lately, Ethan. Your mind isn't on the job. What are you doing, collecting blackmail material on me? I can't believe you still use this piece of junk. I would have smashed it ages ago." But when Leo had pulled out his phone to take a selfie with her, her expression had softened instantly, and she'd posed for several shots. From that day on, the camera, once a symbol of our love, had been buried in the back of this drawer. My finger hovered over the mouse. With a click, I permanently deleted the entire photo album. Then I dropped the camera into the trash can. Some things just needed to be thrown away. With that done, I printed out a divorce agreement. I sat on the couch and waited. By 10 o'clock, Claire still wasn't home. As I stood up to go to bed, a wave of heat washed over me, and I was seized by a fit of coughing. The thermometer read 102. 2 degree F. It was probably pneumonia. Figuring I might be admitted, I packed a bag before I left for the hospital, saving myself a trip back. During the consultation, I felt hazy, struggling to answer the doctor's questions. Then a sharp, clear voice, laced with worry, cut through my fog. "Doctor, is he okay? Please take a close look at him." I flinched, my senses suddenly sharpening. It was Claire's voice. I turned my head. There, in the doorway of the exam room, stood Claire. One hand held a CT scan, the other supported Leo, who was leaning against her dramatically. "Claire, you've been with me all night. You must be exhausted," he whined. "You should just stay at my place again like last time." His eyes met mine, and his expression flickered with surprise. In the next instant, he started to tremble, shrinking behind Claire like a frightened child. "Ethan, did you see my Instagram story and follow me here? Please don't do anything. I'm begging you." Leo loved using social media to provoke me. On a rainy day, he'd forget his umbrella, so Claire would have to drive him home, then post a story praising her for being the kindest boss ever. When I accomplished something major and Claire was about to reward me, he'd feign dizziness or a sudden illness, forcing her to take him to the hospital and stay with him all night. He'd post another story. "A boss who cares this much about her employees? I'm so blessed." It had worked time and time again, pushing me to my breaking point. I had no doubt he'd posted something tonight to get under my skin, but for the first time, I felt absolutely no desire to see it. Claire frowned, her gaze sweeping over me. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. "Doctor," she said, turning back to the physician, "this young man says he's having trouble breathing. Could you please take a look?" The doctor's brow furrowed in annoyance. "There's a line." Claire pointed a finger at me, her expression dripping with contempt. "You don't understand, doctor. This man is just faking it. He's deliberately wasting medical resources." Before the doctor could respond, I stood up. "It's fine," I said quietly. "Let him go first." A flicker of satisfaction crossed Claire's face as she eagerly handed the CT scan to the doctor. The doctor sighed, looked it over, and shook his head. "Your friend is fine. He just needs some rest." "Are you sure?" Claire pressed, unconvinced. "He keeps saying he can't breathe, that he needs someone with him, and he hurt his knee today." Seeing the genuine panic in her eyes, I knew it was because she cared in her own twisted way. In a hospital, you saw family members worrying desperately over their loved ones. But in all my years, I'd always come to the hospital alone. Claire would just accuse me of slacking off. A tightness gripped my chest, and I stepped out of the room for some air. A few minutes later, Claire emerged, speaking softly to Leo. "Let's go get an x-ray of your knee, just to be safe." I was about to go back into the exam room when Leo suddenly turned on me. "Are you going to keep pretending, Ethan? Don't waste the doctor's time." He lowered his voice, his eyes welling up. "I know you didn't just come here to harass me. Fina, the year-end bonus, the project lead position. You can have it all, okay? Just leave me alone." He looked like he was on the verge of a breakdown. Claire immediately spun around, grabbing my sleeve. "Ethan, he's been through enough because of you. Don't you feel any shame? Apologize to him." Now, my head was swimming. I didn't have the strength to pull away, so I just stood there and took it. It was only after Leo had been wheeled away for his x-ray that I could finally sit down on a bench and catch my breath. "Ms. Morgan," I said, my voice raspy from coughing. "If there's nothing else, I'll be going." But Claire grabbed my hand. She flinched at how hot my skin was. Then she stepped closer, stood on her toes, and pressed her forehead against mine. The sudden proximity, her face just inches from mine, was so startling that I instinctively pushed her away. She clenched her fists, a mocking smile on her face. "What are you pretending for? You came all the way to the hospital because you were jealous." Leo wasn't feeling well, so I stayed with him a little late. "I've told you before, he reminds me so much of us when we were starting out. I'm just trying to make up for the support we never had." She paused, then added almost shyly, "And you, making yourself sick just to get my attention. Fine, I'll give you the bonus, secretly. Just don't bring up that nonsense about going public again." I shook my head. A bonus was never what I wanted. Before I could say anything, Leo returned, immediately capturing all of Claire's attention. Watching them walk away, supporting each other like a loving couple, a thought struck me. I brought something important with me. I pulled the sheaf of papers from my bag. "Ms. Morgan," I called out, "could you sign this before you go?" She looked back, annoyed. "What is it now? Can't you see I'm busy? We can deal with work tomorrow at the office." I shook my head and held the papers out again. "It'll just take a second." Claire glanced at Leo, who was waiting for her with a pathetic look on his face, and snatched the papers and a pen from me impatiently. She was about to sign when she paused, sensing something was wrong. She flipped to the first page. Her voice was a choked whisper. Divorce. Sensing Leo's gaze on her, she cut herself off, her face flushing with anger. She slammed the divorce agreement against my chest. Ethan, she seethed, what the hell are you trying to pull now? The impact sent another wave of coughing through me, but I held my ground. Just sign it, Ms. Morgan. It'll be hard to explain to Leo otherwise. That was the wrong thing to say. Her brow tightened. Explain what? I care about him like a little brother. Can you stop being so ridiculously jealous? Go home. I can't even stand to look at you. Without another glance at me, she turned and walked away, her arm around Leo. He looked back over his shoulder, a triumphant smirk on his face as he gave me a thumbs down. I said nothing and went back to the exam room. The doctor confirmed it. Pneumonia. I needed 4 fluids. As the cold liquid slid into my veins, a chill spread through my body, but my mind had never been clearer. If a simple divorce wouldn't work, then I would sue. And I had forgotten to submit my resignation. I pulled out my phone and filed it through the company's HR system. Technically, I was just a team lead with no active projects. The process should have been instantaneous. Instead, my request was immediately rejected by Claire. A message was attached. You want to quit? Fine. Have the guts to do it to my face at the office tomorrow. Another cough racked my body. The next morning, feeling slightly better, I went to the office. My desk was a disaster zone, my belongings piled carelessly on the floor. My former team members were helping Leo move his things in, avoiding my eyes. Leo smiled innocently. Oh, Ethan, sorry about that. We must have knocked your stuff over while we were moving. You're not mad, are you? Claire was supervising. She shot me a look, her smile thin and cold. Company property. Someone who's about to resign has no right to be angry. The CEO's attitude was clear. The sycophants in the office immediately chimed in. Mr. Vance, Ms. Morgan just promoted you to vice president. Technically, you're Ethan's superior. He should be apologizing to you for being in your way. Exactly. Ethan left early yesterday and showed up late today. A guy like that should have been fired ages ago. Leo puffed out his chest, showing off his new VP name badge. He looked me up and down, his voice laced with insinuation. Wow, Ethan, you've got some serious dark circles. And you're so pale. Were you out partying all night? Must have been fun. Claire's face darkened instantly. Some people have no shame, she sneered. Not coming home all night, then showing up to work in that state. Our company has no place for someone like that. How did she know I didn't come home? Did she actually go back to the apartment last night? I coughed lightly and held out my printed resignation form. Ms. Morgan, if you could just sign this. I'm in a hurry. Her expression grew uglier. After a long moment, she let out a scornful laugh and scrawled her signature on the page. You're really committed to the act, aren't you? This whole playing hard to get thing is pathetic, Ethan. Did you really think this company couldn't survive without you? She tossed the pen down and gestured to Leo, lifting her chin defiantly. Leo is a top materials science graduate from Stanford. Last night, he took a few hours and perfected your formula. Your entire team has been praising his talent. She leaned in, her voice a triumphant whisper. What took you 6 months, he finished in a few hours. We've already sent it to our partners. Ethan, if you know what's good for you, you'll apologize right now and swear to start working seriously. If you do, I might consider hiring you back as an intern. Leo added, feigning modesty, don't worry, Ethan. I'll make sure to include you in the project report. As soon as the partners send the final payment, the company will be ready to go public. If you're having second thoughts, now's the time to say you're sorry. It was clear what happened. Leo had stolen a copy of the formula I'd left at my desk. But he didn't know that while the formula looked perfect on paper, it was fundamentally unstable and couldn't be used for mass production. They had walked right into a trap, delivering a faulty product ahead of schedule. They were about to face a catastrophe of their own making. Just then, Claire's assistant rushed over. Ms. Morgan, someone from the partner company is here. They seem agitated. Claire's face lit up. See? They must be thrilled with the results. They're probably here to offer us more money. Ethan, this is your last chance. Think carefully. I laughed. Claire frowned. What's so funny? Leo covered his mouth. I think Ethan's just upset he didn't get credit for the work. Poor guy might be losing it. I just smiled and shook my head, stepping aside to clear a path. Why don't you let him tell you? In the next second, the partner representative stormed into the room and slammed a contract down on the table. Ms. Morgan, he snarled, his voice cold and hard. The formula your company provided contaminated our entire production line. We are invoking the penalty clause for $1 million breach of contract, and we will be seeking an additional $5 million in damages. Claire stared at the contract, her eyes wide with disbelief. Before she could speak, the representative slapped a lawyer's letter down next to it. Ms. Morgan, you have 7 days to wire the full amount to our account. Otherwise, we will see you in court. A wave of shock rippled through the office. Everyone stared at Claire, waiting to see how she would handle the crisis. Her face turned beet red. How could there be a problem with the formula? She stammered. Have you investigated? Do you have a lab report? The representative's face hardened with anger. Are you accusing a publicly traded corporation of fabricating this, Ms. Morgan? Do you want to come and see the mountain of defective product you've cost us? Our CEO was thrilled you delivered 3 days early. We thought, but we were wrong. He looked utterly disgusted. Seeing the panic bloom on Claire's face, I felt a grim sense of satisfaction. This was the result of her blind faith in Leo. $6 million. There was no way she could come up with that kind of money. Since preparing for the IPO, she'd tied up all the company's capital in various contracts and projects. The company's liquid assets were barely $1 million. To pay this, she'd have to halt every other project, throwing the entire company into chaos. Leo, however, reacted quickly. He turned to the representative, his voice smooth and placating. Please rest assured, we will find the person responsible for submitting this toxic formula. Ethan, you should confess now. Maybe we can put in a good word for you. In one swift move, he tried to throw me under the bus. The representative looked at me, and his demeanor shifted slightly. Actually, he said, clearing his throat, our CEO said that if you provide us with the correct formula and are willing to serve as a consultant to our group for 1 month, we might be open to negotiation. Suddenly, all eyes in the room were on me, not with scorn, but with desperate hope. Claire, who had been glaring at me moments before, now looked at me with a soft, pleading light in her eyes. In a move that was completely out of character, she even patted my shoulder in front of everyone. Ethan, she said softly, did you hear him? I knew it all along. You're the real backbone of this company. I was just joking with you earlier. If you can fix this, I'll give you a promotion, a raise. Anything. What do you say? Like chameleons, the others instantly changed their tune. Ms. Morgan is right, Ethan. We were just playing along. You've always been the only project lead for us. I'll go clean out your office right now. Get it back to exactly how it was. Leo, his plan having backfired spectacularly, stood there seething, his fists clenched. A sarcastic smile played on my lips. I looked straight at Leo. As of yesterday, I'm no longer responsible for this project. You're the project lead, Leo. You're the one who submitted the formula. And now you want me to be the scapegoat. Then I turned to the representative. I'm sorry, I said calmly. I've already resigned, and I will not be a consultant for your company. The hope in Claire's eyes died. Her hands fell limply to her sides. Leo, seeing his chance, pinched his own thigh hard, and tears welled up in his eyes. Yes, it's my fault, he sobbed. I shouldn't have been so soft-hearted. I listened to you and submitted the formula, trying to get you the credit, and now I've caused a disaster for both companies. It's all my fault. He paused, a sly glint in his teary eyes. But Ethan, what you've done is illegal. It's corporate sabotage. So, the carrot hadn't worked, and now came the stick. Claire snapped back to reality. She clenched her fists, her face a mask of furious resolution. Ethan, she bit out, I can't believe you're such a despicable person. I was so wrong about you. No wonder you gave up the project so easily yesterday. This was your plan all along. The others took their cue from her. Ethan, if you know what's good for you, you'll apologize to our partners and fix this mess. Otherwise, you'll get to meet our legal team. That's right, causing this much financial damage to the company. Do you know how many years in prison that is? If you just cooperate, you'll be the hero who saved the company. Claire bit her lip, then gestured to her legal counsel. Why don't you explain the consequences to him? She was determined to make me take the fall. I was done with this circus. Enough. My voice cut through the noise. I held up my signed resignation form. Are all of you seriously trying to make a man who has already resigned the scapegoat for your incompetence? Are you delusional? Do you really think I don't know my rights? With that, I turned and walked toward the door. The representative from the partner company let out a long, disappointed sigh and fell in a step beside me. Mr. Grant, he said, catching up to me. Since you're no longer with Morgan Innovations, would you consider an offer from us? Our CEO has always admired your work. You were the main reason we wanted to partner with him in the first place. I was about to politely decline, explaining my plans to move abroad, when something flew past my ear and shattered against the wall. On the floor were the shards of a glass water cup. Claire stood there, trembling with rage. Ethan, stop right there, she shrieked. If you come back and fix this formula right now, I will forgive you. If you don't, I'll divorce you. The word divorce hung in the air. The room went silent. Everyone looked shocked. Just yesterday, Claire had been all but publicly linked with Leo. I couldn't help but find it ironic. Only now, when she needed to threaten me, was she finally willing to admit I was her husband. A tickle in my throat became an overwhelming urge. I bent over, coughing hard, my eyes watering from the strain. Claire mistook this for weakness, for the same old surrender. A flicker of triumph crossed her face. For years, ever since Leo's arrival, divorce had been her ultimate weapon. The moment she said it, I would fold, begging her not to leave me, promising to do whatever she wanted. But she had no power over me anymore. I straightened up, a faint smile on my face. From my briefcase, I pulled out the divorce agreement she had refused to sign the night before. I held it out to her. "Fine by me," I said calmly. "In that case, Ms. Morgan, please sign." Claire blinked, her fingers digging into her palms so hard they drew blood, though she didn't seem to notice. She looked confused, like a child faced with an impossible puzzle, but her pride wouldn't let her back down. "Of course we can get divorced," she snapped. "But you've lived off me for years. You'll leave with nothing. This is my company. I won't let you walk away with half of it." The irony was almost painful. She had no idea her company was already on the brink of bankruptcy, buried under a mountain of debt. I wasn't stupid enough to inherit half of that. "Don't worry," I said quickly. "This agreement already states that I waive all claims to any and all marital assets." The onlookers were completely bewildered, holding their breath as the drama unfolded. Leo, on the other hand, couldn't be happier at the prospect of having Claire all to himself. "Oh, Ethan," he said, faking concern. "Are you doing this because of that silly joke I made yesterday? Please, don't do something you'll regret. I could just quit, it's no big deal." He was always talking about quitting, yet he was climbing the corporate ladder like a rocket. Claire seemed to remember Leo was still there. She looked at him guiltily. "I'm sorry, Leo. I never told you that Ethan and I were." Leo cut her off with a look of deep, soulful devotion. "It's okay, Claire. I always sensed there was a special connection between you two. All I want is the chance to be by your side and support you." His words were like a balm to her frayed nerves. Her expression softened, and she took his hand. "Leo," she said earnestly, "I won't let you down." Then, she snatched the divorce agreement from my hand and signed her name with a flourish. She didn't forget one last parting shot. "Some people are just black-hearted and have no sense of responsibility. You don't deserve to be my husband. Don't come crawling back to me when you can't find a job." I looked at her signature on the paper. I was satisfied. With a final nostalgic glance, I took in the company I'd spent 10 years building and the woman who had shared my bed for a decade. Goodbye, I thought. A sudden, inexplicable panic seized Claire. "Ethan, where are you going?" she called out. "I'm telling you, everything in that apartment is mine. You have no right to take anything." My mood was surprisingly light. I pulled up my flight confirmation on my phone. "Don't worry, I'm not going back there. My flight leaves in 2 hours. I have to get to the airport." On the screen, my destination was clearly visible. Houston. Claire's body went rigid. For some reason, this enraged her. "You were planning to run away to another country all along, weren't you? Someone like you won't make it out there. You'll probably get scammed and sold before you even know what's happening." I just smiled, said nothing, and pulled up the email from the Fortune 500 company's HR department. The room filled with sharp intakes of breath as they saw the official offer letter on my screen. Isn't that one of the biggest tech companies in the world? They recruited Ethan personally. Well, he is brilliant. He was always too good for this place. Which means, Ms. Morgan just threw away a diamond to pick up a piece of glass. The whispers were quiet but sharp. Everyone was stunned that I had landed such a prestigious position. And in that moment, Claire was nothing more than a fool who'd traded a winning lottery ticket for a worthless scrap of paper. She stood there, trembling, unable to say another word. I turned, walked out, and got in a taxi to the airport. Thankfully, I had plenty of time and made it through security with ease. As the plane took off, I watched the city I'd lived in my whole life shrink below me until it was just a blur. I let out a long, slow breath. After landing in Houston, the HR rep took me directly to meet the CEO. She was a Chinese-American woman who looked to be about my age, with a refined beauty that the employees jokingly referred to as her Ice Queen demeanor. The moment she saw me, however, her professional composure faltered, replaced by a flicker of excitement. "Old classmate," she said softly. "Do you remember me?" I froze, searching my memory, but I came up blank. With my near-photographic memory, there was no way I would have forgotten meeting someone so striking. She covered her mouth and laughed. "Do you remember, back in senior year of high school, you defended a girl on the basketball court?" A girl with a bad case of acne, thick glasses, and a little overweight. The image clicked into place. It was a small act, really. A group of bullies had been taunting her, making her the designated defender, and then deliberately throwing the ball at her. I couldn't stand by and watch, so I'd stepped in. After that, she started following me around quietly, bringing me a bottle of Gatorade after practice, slipping a handful of candy into my palm between classes. It caused a bit of a stir, with people teasing us. At the time, my heart was already set on Claire, who was in my class. I had to gently turn her down. It was actually Claire's jealousy over the incident that prompted her to confess her own feelings for me after graduation. The girl disappeared after that. I'd heard she went to study abroad. I never expected to see her again, especially not here. Her name, I recalled, was Sophia Chun. Sophia, I said, a genuine smile spreading across my face. I can't believe it. To see you so successful. It's truly impressive. Sophia tucked a strand of dark hair behind her ear, the tips of which were tinged with pink. I heard you've been working at Morgan Innovations all these years. Are you and Claire Morgan getting married soon? I paused, a bitter laugh escaping me. We already got divorced. Oh. Her eyes widened in surprise, a flicker of something almost endearingly dorky in her expression. I didn't want to get into it. It's a long story, I said, my voice heavy. It's all in the past now. Sophia took the hint and immediately changed the subject. Well, enough catching up. Let me show you to your new office. The job she had for me was a perfect fit, and the workload was a world away from the inhuman pace I'd kept in California. I told her not to give me special treatment, just because we knew each other, but she just laughed and told me to ask anyone on my team. Everyone had the same reasonable hours. Later that week, I let out a single cough during a meeting, and she immediately insisted on taking me to a doctor for a full checkup, strictly forbidding me from working any overtime. A week flew by, and I started to settle into my new life. One morning, a news alert forwarded from Sophia popped up on my screen. Shock report. Morgan Innovations faces multiple project failures. Files for bankruptcy auction. I clicked the link. The accompanying photo showed the sealed doors of my old company and the pale, distraught face of Claire. According to the article, the initial disaster with the core project had only delayed the IPO. But after a senior executive with the surname Vance took over other projects, a cascade of failures followed. Within a week, the entire company had collapsed. I couldn't help but feel a strange sense of melancholy. It took us 10 years to build that company from nothing. It took less than 10 days to destroy it. Sophia's message followed the link. Her company is bankrupt, and she has nowhere to go. What are you thinking? I typed back a simple reply. She's my ex-wife. Her life is not my concern. But some people, even when you try to ignore them, have a way of forcing themselves back into your life. Late that afternoon, just as I was packing up, Sophia got a call from building security. Her face immediately darkened. She walked over to my desk and leaned in close. Claire Morgan is here, she whispered. She's demanding to see you. She says she won't leave until you come down. It's causing a scene. I sighed. I couldn't let my personal drama tarnish the company's reputation. I went downstairs to face her. The once proud and powerful Claire Morgan was now shivering in the cold wind, wrapped in a thin camel coat. Her dark hair was a mess, revealing a pale, gaunt face. When she saw me, her dull eyes slowly lit up, and she rushed forward, throwing herself into my arms. Ethan, I've missed you so much. Her cheek brushed against my shoulder, and then she suddenly stiffened, her whole body on high alert. Who is she? She demanded, her voice sharp with suspicion. I turned and saw Sophia standing a few feet behind me. Sophia, caught off guard, quickly masked the flicker of sadness in her eyes. Just passing by, she said, coughing lightly. Claire visibly relaxed. She smiled at me, a strange, almost manic brightness in her eyes. You've been giving me the silent treatment for a week. Aren't you ready to forgive me yet? People on the street were starting to stare, some with knowing smirks. This was mortifying. I gently pushed her away and led her to a quiet nearby coffee shop. As she cradled a warm mug, taking small, delicate sips, I finally spoke. Why are you here? Don't you have a company to run? Her long lashes fluttered. She set down her cup. I left Leo in charge. I stared at her, dumbfounded. She still trusted him? After everything? Did she really think he wouldn't pull some other stunt? It was insane. I remember a time when I had rushed into her office without knocking to deliver an urgent file, and she had torn me to shreds for it. You trust him? I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. Claire's lips curved into a smile. What, are you jealous again? Don't worry. His research skills are nowhere near yours, but he's perfectly capable of managing things. And he listens to me. She licked her lips. Here it comes, I thought, sitting up straighter. As expected, her voice dropped, hesitant. Ethan, I just need $1 million to get back on my feet. The banks won't give me another loan. Can you? Can you lend it to me? I frowned, about to refuse, but she cut me off, speaking in a rush. Don't worry. If you give me the money, I'll remarry you on the spot. I'll sign over half the new company's shares to you. From now on, I'll do whatever you say. Please. It was so absurd I almost laughed. Was I really once in love with this completely self-absorbed woman? Did she think the world revolved around her? My voice was cold. Claire, even if I had $1 million, which I don't, our marriage is over. I have no reason to lend you money. I stood up to leave. She reached out to stop me, her face a mask of bitter disappointment. 10 years. Ethan, we were together for 14 years, married for 10. You were my partner, my best friend for half my life. How can you be worse than him? Even when the company was collapsing, Leo never thought about abandoning me. But you. The accusation was galling. She had caused the company's collapse. She had destroyed our relationship. What right did she have to stand there and preach to me? As she was speaking, her phone rang. She glanced at it, about to decline the call, but saw it was her CFO and answered. It's terrible, Ms. Morgan, Mr. Vance. He's cleared out all the company's accounts. We haven't been able to reach him for 3 hours. Thud. The phone slipped from her grasp and clattered onto the floor. She remained frozen in place, her hand still held to her ear, but her eyes were empty, all focus gone. I let out a long sigh and walked out of the coffee shop. Outside, a slender figure stood under a street lamp, a thin trail of smoke curling from her fingers. When she saw me, Sophia, startled like a child caught doing something wrong. She quickly stubbed out the cigarette and tossed it in the trash. She smoothed down her hair, looking embarrassed. It helps with the anxiety sometimes. You out already? I could see she was flustered and decided to tease her a bit. What are you doing out here? Sophia clenched her hands in a fist. You're my employee, she said, coughing lightly. I was just worried you might be in some kind of trouble. I smiled. The sky was inky black, a bright moon hanging overhead. For some reason, I felt a sudden urge to talk to her, to tell her everything. Let's walk for a bit, I suggested. We can leave the cars here. Her eyes lit up, and she nodded eagerly. My thoughts were scattered. I just started talking, letting the story of my life with Claire, from the early days of love and partnership to the bitter end, spill out of me. Finally, without thinking, I asked Sophia, was it something I did wrong? She didn't answer right away. She just stopped walking. I thought perhaps I had bored her with my problems. I turned to her, smiling apologetically. I'm sorry. I've just been rambling about myself. You. My words died in my throat. Sophia was crying, silent tears streaming down her face. I didn't have a tissue and stood there, completely helpless. She quickly wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. If I had known she was going to treat you so badly, she whispered, her voice so soft I could barely hear it, I never would have stepped aside. Her words hit me with a quiet force. I felt a tremor in my heart. But after everything, I didn't know if I still had the capacity to love again. From that day on, I didn't hear from Claire. 3 months passed. Winter thawed into spring. Then, one day, Sophia was gone. Our apartments were close, so we had fallen into a routine of commuting together. But that morning, she never showed up. When I went to knock on her door, it swung open with a creak. My initial relief vanished. The person standing in the doorway was all too familiar. It was Claire. The next thing I knew, a cloth smelling of chemicals was pressed over my nose and mouth. The world went black. When I woke up, I was in a dusty warehouse. My hands and feet were bound tightly to a chair. A single, dim bulb hanging from the ceiling cast long, dancing shadows. Sophia was tied to a chair next to me, the clear imprint of a hand across her cheek. What's the matter? Does it hurt to see her like that? Claire's voice was a low, menacing snarl as she stepped out of the shadows. What kind of spell did this witch cast on you? What did she do to convince you not to come home to me? The most terrifying part was the glint of steel in her hand. It was a knife. The light caught the blade, flashing in my eyes. My mind raced as I surreptitiously twisted my wrists, trying to loosen the ropes. It was no use. They were too tight. To buy time, I kept my voice calm and steady. Claire, don't do this. Whatever happened, just tell me. I can help you fix it. Hearing me use her name so gently, her eyes reddened for a fraction of a second. But the moment of vulnerability was gone as quickly as it came, replaced by a raw, consuming hatred. You men are all liars. You promised you'd love me forever. Then you left me for another woman. You wouldn't save my company. And Leo, all his sweet talk was just a lie to steal my money. So he's dead. And now you and this Sophia, are going to join him in hell. Her voice rose, becoming more and more unhinged, her eyes bloodshot with madness. So he's dead, and now you and this Sophia are going to join him in hell. A cold dread washed over me. Dead? Had she really killed Leo? Claire was no longer just desperate. She was a murderer. Before I could say another word, she lunged, the knife aimed straight for Sophia's heart. There was no time to think. I threw my body in front of Sophia. An unimaginable pain exploded in my chest. The world seemed to tilt, and all the strength drained out of me. Every breath was a ragged, gurgling gasp filled with the taste of my own blood. Sophia let out a piercing, agonized scream. Ethan! Claire's eyes widened in horror. The bloody knife fell from her hand and clattered on the concrete floor. Huge, fat tears streamed down her face. She pressed her hands against the wound in my chest, but it was useless. The blood just kept coming, seeping through her fingers. Ethan, she sobbed, her voice a broken whisper. I only wanted to kill her. I just wanted you to come back to me. Don't die, please don't die. At that moment, the warehouse door burst open. Police and paramedics swarmed in. Sophia's voice was sharp with urgency. Over here, we have a critical injury. My vision was tunneling, fading to black. The last thing I saw was Claire, her face streaked with tears and my blood, being led away in handcuffs. When I woke up in the hospital, Sophia told me everything. She had managed to make a silent emergency call on her phone shortly after she was taken, but she never imagined Claire would manage to capture me too. With one murder already on her hands, plus the charge of attempted murder, Claire was sentenced to life in prison. Not long after I recovered, I asked Sophia to marry me. She said yes. We became a power couple, both of us rising to the top of our respective fields in the corporate world. We had a son, and we built a life together, a quiet, stable, happy life. The end.